So, anyone who's worked with me before knows I like to give people some actions that they can get on with straight away, and you guys are no different. Since we're talking about everything scaling, I want to point out 5 things that you can be doing already. And as I say, it doesn't matter how big you are, the sooner you start with these things, the easier your life will become. It will pay dividends down the track. I like to think a lot of these are common sense. As we sometimes find out, common sense isn't that common, so that's why I want to point them out to you. So the first cab off the ranks, as always, is governance. I know it sounds obvious, but it's so important. Well-governed tools are essential for scaling. So what can you do around the governance thing? First of all, and I think it's been touched on a couple of times, make it clear what the system is for. The problem with Jira is that it's so customizable. It's the best thing and the worst thing about it. It can be all things to all people. But it's really important, work out what the system is for and what you are offering to your business. If Jira is there for agile project delivery, then that's what it's for. So if somebody says, I want to add 100 custom fields because I want to use my project for asset management, well, no, because that's not what Jira was designed for. So you have to have a really clear vision on what you want the tool to be to support and add value to the most people in the organization. And as Christian said, sometimes if saying no isn't always an option, then financial blockers, if you like, might be the way to go. Likewise with Confluence. Is it a knowledge sharing tool? Well, if that's the case, make sure that people are creating engaging content that's easy to consume. They're not just dumping attachments on there, using it as a file repo, and having no context around it. So make sure you've got some governance rules designed about how the tool is meant to be used. Without getting too meta, put them in Confluence, and as part of your onboarding for all users, make sure that they're across it. They understand the reasoning behind why the system is set up the way it is. Also, things like Jira, have things like team templates. Decide what most teams want to work as, and have them already, like a menu of projects. So when a new team comes along and says, I want to use Jira, you can say, great, do you want the Scrum project? We've got a Kanban one, we've got a developer-based one, we've got a simple task tracking, and lead them in the right direction rather than saying, well, what do you want? And having to reinvent the wheel every time. And then giving you a big long list of things that you then have to start saying no to. So lead them in the right direction. I think it's kind of a fallacy that a well-governed enterprise tool has to be really vanilla or restrictive in how you use it. It's all about doing your homework and making sure that it's set up to satisfy the most people there. And if there's always going to be edge cases, but then you can deal with those on a case-by-case basis rather than doing it when everyone's coming through the door. It's about streamlining the onboarding process that I think Christian mentioned earlier. Upgrade more than you're doing just now. It's funny, the bigger people's instances get, the less they tend to upgrade. And that's crazy, because then you've got even more people suffering, having a poor experience by being on an older version. So you want to upgrade as much as you can. And just recently, Atlassian announced they're bringing out enterprise editions, enterprise versions that you can upgrade to. So what they do is, once a year, one of the major feature releases, so like Jira 7.6, I think was the last example, will be denoted in Enterprise Edition. And what that means is, you can start to plan and do all your testing, because it takes such a long time, using that version. Now, any subsequent bug fixes and security patches that come out will be included retrospectively into that enterprise version. So the features won't change, so you can do all your UAT testing against it and know that when you actually go to the production upgrade, it's going to work and not be any surprises. But you're not missing out on all of the security patches that are subsequently found when you're still in UAT phase. So it just helps you to plan a little bit more. Upgrading really is an exercise in change management. It's about getting people on side, selling them some new features, and when they're begging for them, introducing the downtime window in order to activate those features. Schedule regular upgrade windows, even if you don't use them. Just get people used to it time and time again, so it's not a big thing. Make sure you subscribe to security updates, release notes, go to Atlassian user groups. One of the user group leaders is here. Grab her afterwards if you want to talk about that. Make sure you're across the latest updates in the tool so you know and you can plan your upgrades better. If your upgrades at the moment are painful, you're not doing them enough. As simple as that. Monitoring, this is probably the buzzword of the morning. Get in the front foot and monitor your tools. A lot of people do this to some degree, so they'll monitor maybe disk space to make sure that they don't fill up. But you should be monitoring things like the JVM and access logs. Having a baseline is often missed as well. It's all very well monitoring, but you need to know what you're comparing to. having 60% CPU usage might be normal for your Jira if it's that all day, or it might not. It's important that you guys know. And think about how you're actually going to alert the right people. So monitoring is one side of the story, but then when something does go wrong, how do we alert the right people? Are we going to have wall boards up, information boards? Are we going to be pushing updates to HipChat or to Stride? Are we going to go the full hog and have something like PagerDuty, which will do intelligent sort of escalation to the right people based on your business rules? We talked about that at the last DevOps event we did here. Really interesting, fantastic use case for it. If you're interested, we can set up a demo. Spend time setting up your monitoring, working out that alert, and tweaking it. The right signal to noise ratio is really important. If you wake up every morning with a dozen alerts in your inbox, false positives, the whole thing's meaningless. So it really is worthwhile spending some time. And you're going to have to tune your tools constantly as you grow. Don't just wait for it to fall over, like I said before, and then be in reactive mode. Constant tuning and tweaking is the way to go. Best practice would really say that you should have a monitoring framework in place before you even start using the tools. But I'm pretty sure that that's not often the case. So do yourselves a favor and get in the front foot and start to monitor. Data quality is another thing. Atlassian tools are great. They're really intuitive and everyone loves them, generally. So they all start using them. The flip side is they fill up really quickly with loads of stuff. And most of it, or a lot of it, is rubbish. You need to be constantly curating your tools, but keeping them optimal and allowing them to scale more smoothly. For example, in Confluence, people can spin stuff up all the time. There's so many pages that just have nothing but a title, or it's an empty meeting template, or all sorts of things. You really need a wiki gardener who's constantly going to be looking and reviewing the content that's in there. Is it still accurate? Can we archive it? Can we get rid of it? Is it in the wrong place? Is it stylistically correct? Is it up to date? And that's an ongoing process, and it's one that's really often missed. And yet, if you don't do it, as Confluence grows, it becomes this big, stale, horrible thing that no one wants to use, and that's really counter to the reason you had it in the first place. So constant curation and keeping the tools optimal, and that's about content as well as just the actual volume that's in there. Same as in Jira, we talked about archiving things. Get stuff out of the way, especially taking it out of Jira so that it's not actually got a performance hit when you're indexing. If it doesn't need to be there, then do something with it, move it somewhere else. Keep the tools kind of as lean as you can get away with, but still giving you the value. Old custom fields, old workflows, all of these things that we talked about in Jira to keep your templates, those project templates we're talking about, up to date. And training, my personal favorite. Most of us only use 10% of our brains. It's actually not true, but it works for this. Most people only use 10% of their tools. And that's because they don't understand all the features. It actually amazes me the places I go, and I'll show people what I think something simple about, creating a JQL filter and subscribing to it, or swim lanes or card colors or something really simple. And they're like, wow, this has changed my world. I wish I'd known this before. So good training is really, really important. I'm amazed how ineffective or lacking training is in some places where you've got 2,000 people using a tool. And in a seemingly unbelievable coincidence, GLiNTECH have just launched and revamped our training offering. So if you go to glintech.com/training, you can see the new courses that we have. It's much easier to understand. We've got Atlassian courses. They're broken into new users or advanced users, admin courses. There's new courses being introduced all the time as well. So have a look on there and see where we can help. It might be, it's lucky I know, it might be that you need help with training strategy, or train the trainer in your organization, or you want us to come in and train everyone. We can absolutely help. I would go as far as to say you should consider mandatory training before allowing people to use your tools, or maybe for admin access, for example. I've seen it work really well, all jokes aside, and not selling, even if you do it yourselves. If someone wants to be a project admin in Jira, then they have to prove that they understand the consequences of the admin access that they're getting. So I think it's really important. And also, if you keep your eyes peeled for our public training schedule, which is coming very soon, as well as our existing on-site team option. It's just a much more flexible way for you guys to allow to train new people as they start. So it's a lot to take in, but these 5 pillars, I promise you, because I've seen it time and time again, will set you in really good stead. If in doubt, reach out to GLiNTECH, Atlassian Online.